Hi, I'm Victoria Pogge von Strandmann and I'm involved in the Every Child in Need campaign because of my concerns about the proposals by the government that are being put forward at the moment and the damaging effect that I think this will have on children in need. One of the key proposals that we're campaigning about is the proposal to remove the timeframes for carrying out assessments on children in need. The government proposal is to amalgamate the initial assessment and the core assessment into one single assessment and to remove any time frame so that it will just be done within the time that the Social Services Department thinks is appropriate in that particular case. To give you a couple of examples of why I think that's going to be particularly problematic for many children in need, one is the example of a teenager who's been kicked out from their family home. There are difficulties at home, there may be violence, there may be other issues which mean that it's not feasible for them to continue living there, or it may simply be that their parents refuse to have them living there, and that occurs all too frequently in my caseload. That child, if they present to social services, is entitled to an urgent initial assessment within 7 working days to determine what their urgent needs are and to provide those services. And often, obviously, the urgent need will be to provide immediate accommodation. Once the urgent needs have been met, there will often then need to be a core assessment which will look at more fundamental issues and how longer term needs can be met. Without those timeframes, that means that a child presenting to social services, there's no requirement as to how quickly that assessment needs to be done or how quickly the services need to be provided. Another good example is a family with a disabled child who has very severe needs, requires a lot of support and input from the parents. They may have other children and they're struggling to meet all of those children's needs. You get families often who are on the verge of breakdown, they're on the verge of saying, we can't cope, we need this child to be taken into care because we simply can't meet their needs anymore. And a lot of the time, all they need is some care services from the local authority, some respite provision, other types of support. And again, without the timescales of the local authority having to carry out an assessment of that child's needs and get on and provide those services, things will drag on. We already see cases where things have been dragging on for far too long by the time a solicitor gets involved, and those timescales then enable us to enforce those timescales and force the local authority to do a proper assessment of the child's needs and come up with an operational care plan. What we're really concerned about is that local authorities that are massively pressurised by the cuts and the austerity measures at the moment, social workers with big caseloads, far too much on their plates. If there's no timescales that they have to stick to, then these things just won't get done, and the people who suffer are the children in need.